podcast made by, for, and about Beatles fans. And now, here's your host, Alexanian.
Hello. Welcome back to Fans on the Run, the only show guaranteed to give you a good time. Don't take my word for it. No, I just don't take my word for it. Oh, man. You know, I was actually proud of that when I wrote that this morning. I've been trying to come up with more ways to introduce the show, and I thought, that's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Nothing on this show is terribly funny. What was that? I thought I heard music. But that's besides the point. We have a great guest for you today. In fact, it's a little bit of a reunion. Guest, how would you describe yourself?
Well, very enlightening to the fact that I have been privileged today and called upon this wonderful Saturday, which we're recording, to be part of Fans on the Run.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lonnie Peña. Lonnie, welcome to Fans on the Run.
Oh, it is just fantastic to be here. I woke up this morning, Ethan, and it's going to be a great day.
It is going to be a great day.
Talk about music. You heard music. There's always literally music in my head, 24/7.
What music has been in your head lately?
Here lately, I've been actually recording original music with my songwriting partner, Leon, who lives in Beaumont, Texas. And so the last time I was in Houston, which like a month ago or so, I got together with my buddy Leon and we recorded a couple of tunes. And so I brought them back with me. I live in Oakland, California now. So I've been recording all morning, Ethan. So my original music has been in my head for the last 24 hours.
Besides your own music, what other music have you been listening to as of late?
I was listening this morning, believe it or not, to Selena, because I started watching that Netflix TV series on her life. She's a Texan as well as I'm a Texan. And so I thought it was fairly interesting. So Spotify, you can search Spotify and find pretty much everything under the sun. So
it's the beauty of the internet.
I know, it is just incredible. So I was listening to Selena this morning, bitty bitty bum bum, bitty bum bum. But other than that, I listen to all sorts of stuff, Ethan. All sorts of stuff, especially them Fab Four.
Oh yes, those Beatle people. I think I've heard of them.
John, Paul, Ringo, and George. That's official now. I feel so official. Where's my badge? I need a badge.
The thing is, I've been working on some like pins and badges to make for Fans on the Run. I have the designs all done and everything.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that sounds cool.
It's just a matter of time before I make them, like, officially.
And all you need to do is charge just one crypto dollar or one crypto coin, and then you never know what that would end up being, in the long run, cost-wise.
Fans on the Run buttons now, 1 Bitcoin.
1 Bitcoin worth $60,000. No, I think it went down yesterday. It's now $55,000 a coin.
Even better, $55,000 will get you the shiniest badge I can make.
How much do you think I could buy with $1? Like 0.000?
I don't think you'd be able to buy a full Bitcoin. I don't really know I haven't really kept up on my cryptocurrency.
Neither have I, but I have people that are watching for me.
It's good to have people watch for you.
Since I'm a fan on the run and I'm constantly on the move.
I'm a fan on the run too.
Is that right? Well, let's get that merchandise flowing, Ethan. Come on, you can do it.
Lonnie, I need you on here more often. You're getting me all pumped up.
I'm ready for the button. I need my badge, my Fans on the Run badge.
The thing is, Lonnie, when I make these badges, you will be the first one to receive them because
thank
of
you.
your undying support.
I am so enthusiastic about it.
Now,
but yeah. What's going on, man? What's happening in Toronto? No, you're not in Toronto. You said you're in Waterloo, right?
I am in Waterloo, just a little outside of Toronto.
Cool. Well, I'm in Oakland, California, just East Bay of San Francisco.
Nice. How's the weather these days?
Well, from what they tell me, and as I look out the window, they're all shouting out at me. It's blue skies, it's sunny, and it's 75 degrees. And that's pretty much summer as well.
It's like that one ELO song.
Is that, which one is that? Blue skies above?
I don't know.
Mr. Blue Skies, right?
Yeah.
Like
I was thinking telephone line, but Mr. Blue Sky works better.
Yeah, it's, you know what, I've talked to the natives here and the people that have lived here all their life, and that's pretty much it. That's the weather here. This is the season. This is all 4 seasons.
That's pretty good.
Blue skies. The lowest in the winter, maybe 48 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
I don't know the conversion in Celsius, but and the high may be like 75 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very, very nice. Very nice.
45 degrees would be like, I don't know, maybe 15 degrees Celsius. That's, it's a little chilly, but not terribly chilly.
It's not freezing.
No.
32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing.
Yeah. It's like you can wear a sweater.
So yeah, it's beautiful here today.
Well, should we get this wagon train a moving, Lonnie?
Let's do it. Yakimo, rawhide.
So, Lonnie.
Yes, sir.
How did you first discover the Beatles?
Well, I was in a cave one day, and as I lit my cigarette when I was 5 years old, because in 1964 you could just do that, I discovered a poster and remnants of an old land that once was beneath Houston, Texas. And to be honest with you, I don't remember. It was February. What was the date at Sullivan? February the 7th?
I think it was February 7th or February 9th. I think it was
Yeah, so anyway, 1964, I was still 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was yet
You weren't in a cave, though.
I was actually not I was in the cave of my own home.
Yes, you heard it here first.
In the cave of my own home. I used to make little blankets and play like they were caves. Mm-hmm. But no, I don't remember the...
There's a Bonzo Dog Doodah Band song called In the Canyons of Your Mind.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to have to look that up on that streaming service that we talked about earlier.
That sounds like a good idea.
Anyhow, yeah, that's, I don't remember the Beatles on the first appearance on Ed Sullivan. I was 6 years old. I had yet turned 7. I would turn 7 later that year. But in 1965, they played Ed Sullivan in September of 1965. And I remember that performance vividly.
What do you remember about it?
I remember sitting in front of our little black and white TV, the console TV that was like as huge as a living room, half the living room. Mm-hmm. And I was eating my favorite, snowflakes, Tony the Tiger, mm-hmm. Crispy snowflake, cornflakes, whatever you call
Frosted Flakes?
Frosted Flakes, yes. This was before they were even frosted. That's how old I am.
So they were just flakes.
They were just flakes. I was sitting cross-legged in front of our black and white tube TV. And this was at night, September 1965. And the Beatles appeared. And I remember that vividly. I remember Ringo, they zoomed in on Ringo and, it was just great. It was great. That was my first exposure that I remember about the Beatles.
Were you hooked right away?
I was 7. Actually, it said that September they appeared out. Yeah, I was 7, and to be honest with you, I really wasn't into music. I really wasn't into music. I was more into, playing, outside with my friends. We play army with sticks. Or, I don't know if this is politically correct nowadays, but we play cowboy and Indians,
Yeah.
that kind of deal. Now they put you in jail if you played that. But anyway, I wasn't into music. And my older siblings, who are much older than me, Ethan, like 8 years, 10 years, and 12 years older than me, they were not into the Beatles, believe it or not.
What were they into?
Well, my older siblings, my 2 older brothers, are jazz musicians.
Okay.
So they were professional jazz musicians, and so they were into jazz. Freddie Hubbard, Miles Davis. They frowned on rock and roll because that was below them. That was beneath them. Mm-hmm. And my sister, who wasn't a musician, who's 10 years older than me, or actually 9 years older than me, she was into Motown. Although she did have one record. She bought a VJ record in 1963. Do you want to know a secret?
Okay.
About the Beatles? She bought that 45.
So there was one Beatle record in your house.
There was one Beatle record in my house, but the rest of the albums were jazz. And I wasn't into that. I was just into playing outside with my friends. I wasn't into music. So I listened to the Beatles on the radio. I liked the Beatles, but I wasn't buying the records until much later.
When did you first buy a Beatle record?
Well, you have to have the equipment, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have the turntable and whatever, the speakers and the amplifier. So when I was 13 years old, and that we're moving into the 70s now. Mm-hmm. So this was the Christmas of 1971. I was 13, and that was on my Christmas list, a record player. So Christmas comes around, and lo and behold, as I woke up, went to the living room, and there was a record player in there for me. Just amazing.
Magic.
It was one of those combos, it was a turntable with an AM FM, mm-hmm. all in one. And then it had 2 little speakers, and it came with a stand. It was a Philco, Philco, Philco brand. And that was actually made by Ford, the automotive company.
Ford made turntables?
Ford made little combo sets. Yeah, that's Philco. You can look it up. Philco. Philco.
What was it? Well built?
It was adequate, for a 13-year-old. It lasted me a few years, but along with that turntable, I also put on my list of records I wanted. And on that list of records, Ethan, there was not one Beatles album on that list.
What was on the list?
Well, it was Jesus Christ Superstar. It was a double album from the opera. The movie had yet to be released. It was from the opera, this 1969.
That's a good record.
It's awesome. That was on my list. I got that album, Santana, which was their Outreach Hand album cover. I think that ended up being like Santana 3. That was on my list. And Harry Nilsson, Son of Smilson.
Really?
Little did I know that there were some Beatles on that album that played, like Ringo and George.
So you owned a Harry Nilsson album before you owned a Beatle album?
Yes, I did. I did not realize that. And those were my first 3 albums. And, later I was into like whatever was in the top 10, top 40. Mm-hmm. Chicago. The band Chicago, they were hot on the list back in the day. They had so many hit records. And now
25 or 6-4.
Yeah, I bought Live in Chicago, Carnegie Hall. That's like a triple album or quadruple album. I don't remember. It was just packed. It was a box set. I had that, and then I got into progressive rock around that time with Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Genesis, the early Genesis, with Peter Gabriel.
Oh, the fantastic early Genesis stuff.
Yeah, so I had to have. I would go with my money that I earned. I worked with my dad on the weekends and after school. My dad was an automobile painter. He would paint automobiles at a dealership. He worked there. And so I would go to help him prep cars, sand down the cars and tape them up so he can paint. And he would give me $5 a week if I would help him for the week. And with that money, I would go out and buy 45s. And so I can buy a whole lot of 45s for $5, Ethan. Mm-hmm. The 45s were probably 49 cents a piece. So I'd go out and buy me, whatever I could buy with $5. Whatever that was, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 10 45s. So I would just get the top 10 list for that week, the local top 10, and then I would just kind of pick and choose what 45s I wanted. And it happens to be a couple of them were Beatle related. I remember buying Happy Christmas, War is Over. That was a 45 that was released with John and Yoko. And I bought it was a green vinyl with a picture sleeve.
I was going to ask, was it the green one?
Yeah. Those are the initial releases. Green vinyl, and it had that label where their faces, what was it, that one? I can't remember now.
No, it was that one.
It's just the Apple label, right? Or is it the faces turned from John and Yoko?
I think that one had the faces turning from John to Yoko.
Maybe so. Yeah, I think that was.
Feel free to correct us in the comments if we're wrong.
Yeah. I bought Just Another Day, McCartney, and Uncle Albert. That was out in 72. And I bought mainly 45s, Ethan, because albums were a little bit more expensive. The albums were like $3.99,
yeah,
$4.99.
You could not get 10 albums for $5.
No, I couldn't. So I would end up buying 40. I have so many 45s. I still have most of those 45s that I bought. Although later in high school, I sold a lot of 45s just to make extra money. I would will and deal at high school, under the desk. I said, you want some 45s, young man? Here you go. Here's a 45 for $0.25. They were half price.
Lonnie Peña, the wheeler dealer.
Yeah, so I kind of, regret that because now I wish I had some of those 45s back.
So when in this journey of buying all these 45s, did you really start getting into the Beatles more and more?
Oh, it was really weird. I went. My best friend at the time, and my mother took us. We would go to the flea market like once a month, mm-hmm. where they buy and sell stuff, just a bunch of stuff there. And there's a couple of record dealers there, used records. So my mother dropped us off, me and my best friend and I. And so we beeline it to the record dealer. And,
as you do, as I do whenever I go to
that hasn't stopped to this day. And so we would buy whatever, because they were used records. We can get them for $1.99, And so my buddy pulled out this old album, like this classic album. And I said, what are you doing with that? You're not going to buy that album, are you? This was like 1972, okay? Mm-hmm. The fall of 72. I remember that because it was sort of cool. The climate was cool in Houston. And he said, yeah, I broke my brother's copy. And years ago, I broke my brother's copy, older brother, and I'm going to buy this for him to replace it that he broke years ago. And I said, okay. And what it was the Beatles, Meet the Beatles.
Really?
Yeah. So, I didn't think anything of it because I was at that point, I was into like progressive rock.
Yeah. This was the year of like Foxtrot by Genesis.
Oh yeah, about and then I like this band called Flash that featured a keyboardist who was formerly with Yes, and the guitar player who was formerly with Yes was in this band called Flash. And so I bought that album, and I would buy Yes albums, and I was so into the progressive rock. So we went back to my place, and just for the heck of it, I said, put that album on the turntable, Meet the Beatles. That's a classic. That had been released, this is 72, so what is...
Released like 8 years before.
Just 8 years. Can you imagine? 8 years.
Yeah.
Different. What was 8 years ago? Well, 8 years ago was,
2013.
2013. All that music 8 years ago is still pretty much applicable, no difference.
Yeah.
But in 72, that was like, that album.
It was like dinosaur music.
Dinosaur, to me, at least, as a teenage. I was whatever at that point. I was 14 years old. And
you wanted to hear stuff like Tarkus.
I wanted to, absolutely, I love that Tarkus. I would play that over and over. Anyway, put the album on, and my gosh, it blew me away. The first song, I saw her standing there. It brought back memories that had been like hidden and unlocked in my brain. And I would listen to this music on the radio, but it just wasn't registering it when I was little, 7, 8, 9. But when I played that album, I fell in love with every single song on Meet the Beatles. And I told my buddy, I said, can I keep that album? Because I want to play it, before you take it and give it to your brother. And, Ethan, I still have that album to this day.
You never gave it back?
I never gave it back.
Smart man.
He forgot about it over the years. We were in high school. I met this guy who was my best friend in the 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, high school. I never gave the album back to him. He joined the Houston Police Department, then we lost track because, he had another set of friends that want to hang around with me.
But luckily for you, that means he probably forgot about that Meet the Beatles. Yeah,
I hope he's not listening. I won't mention any names.
Names will be hidden to protect the innocent.
Well, I have a picture of my room at the time, at the wall of my room, and the poster. I have a Harry Nilsson poster up on the wall. I have a Chicago poster on the wall. I have a David Bowie poster on the wall. Mm-hmm. And then I have another picture like a year later. There's nothing but Beatles on the wall this time. All the other bands just kind of disappeared from my life.
So after you let's just say borrowed that copy of Meet the Beatles, how did it go from there?
Yeah, I went back to the record, to the flea market, and I bought used records. So I slowly started adding to my Beatles collection. I bought a few new albums. Of course, at that time, they were on Apple label, all the Beatle albums. But so I have a mixture. My initial set of albums is a mix with Apple labels that I bought back in 73, 74, and 75, and mixed in with classic, the classic Capitol labels, because I bought used albums too. Whatever I could really afford at the time. But by the summer of 1973, I had my collection complete. My Beatles USA catalog was complete. And then I started buying solo stuff, as it slowly came out. By that summer, I had Red Rose Speedway. I had Living in a Material World. And then later that summer, Mind Games came out. And then later, Ringo album was released. And from that point on, I was up to date. From that point, from the summer of 73, I have bought every album that has been released since in the past 40 something years.
When did you go from just buying out these albums to fill out your collection to being a full-fledged Beatle collector?
Well, that has to coincide with, the funds to do that.
Tends to happen.
When I worked with my dad all the way through high school, but that wasn't too lucrative.
Yeah, the $5 a week.
$5. And now, if I worked on Saturday, like a half day on Saturday, he actually would give me $20.
Okay, that's better.
Hours. So, I got to buy maybe an album with that $20, a couple albums. But yeah, I graduated high school, and I didn't go straight to college. I didn't go to college until much later in my life. I was in my mid-30s by the time I went to college. I went straight to work. And I was still living at home. So, I'd help my mother out with whatever little, what she would need to help, since I was living there still. But I was working, and I'd spend most of my hard-earned money with those bootleg recorets. And there was just a flood
Do you
of
remember
albums.
what the first bootleg you ever got was?
Oh, that was Get Back. It was actually Get Back. It was CUM.
Oh,
Back.
Come Back.
Come Back. There was no cover. It wasn't wrapped in cellophane or anything. It was just an album. And I had to trust that the dealer who sold it to me, because he told me this was a Beatles album. This was like some of their last recordings that they recorded. So I had to trust, because there was the label was just white label. There was no writing on the label. There was no writing on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank goodness he was telling the truth. And that had to be, I was still in high school. So that had to be like 75, maybe 1975. And I probably paid $2, $3 for that album. But yeah, I graduated high school in 1976. And so by that time, I had money to spend, and I did. I'd bought bootlegs, and by 76, there was a whole flood of resurgence of Beatles that was coming out, Rock and roll music was released.
Got to Get You to My Life was back in the charts.
And it was playing on the top 40 radio in town. Got to Get You to My Life. And that was awesome. Hearing a Beatles record that was recorded 10 years prior on the top 40 radio station. That was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Especially, it was a big deal for everybody, but for me, because, there was only a handful of us in school that were Beatle fans. Mm-hmm. If you were a Beatle fan, you were sort of an outcast, because that's old. Who likes the Beatles? They broke up in 1970.
They're old news.
Dude, you need to be wearing, Led Zeppelin or Peter Frampton or whatever band was happening at the time.
Oh yeah, high and mighty Peter Frampton. He got his career killed by a Beatle movie.
By the Beatles, yeah. But no, Kiss. Everybody was into all that stuff in high school. And I was still wearing my John Lennon t-shirt, And so there was only a handful of us. There's not a whole lot of people. I come close to get into some major fights, because if you didn't, if you said something about the Beatles, then I would certainly, talk back. I wasn't going to hide.
You wouldn't just let them, insult the Beatles like that.
Heck no, because you're insulting me.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know. I mean, just a whole deluge of albums and bootlegs in the late 70s. It was just pouring out these 45s. I remember those color the Decagon 45.
The Decagons.
They were released in, I think, 1977, I believe, or 78. at that time, and they were slowly starting to find their way in the record stores. The not the main record stores, but the little family operated record stores.
Not the big chain ones.
No, they didn't sell stuff like that. At least I didn't know of. But I remember seeing one of the Decagon 45s behind the counter and asking the owner of the store, says, "What is that? Is this picture I never saw before?" And he said, "Well, this is Beatles. It's the new stuff that came out, It's this new releases of old songs. It's their original rehearsals from Decca." And I said, "I gotta have that. How much is it?" And he said, "Oh no, I have it. It's the only copy I have, and I have it here because someone called and they wanted me to save it for them." And I said, "No, how much you want for it?" He says, "Well, it's $6 for the 45."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I'll give you 10." He says, "No, I can't do that. The guy, he's a frequent customer." And this was 77. I was whatever. Oh, I was probably 18, 19, somewhere around there. And I pulled out a $20 bill.
Oh my God.
And I said, "I want that record." And I pulled a $20 bill out, and he grabbed the 20 and threw me the record. So, I had money at that time. Still living it on.
$20 for a 45.
I didn't hesitate, Ethan. I didn't hesitate.
Nor should you have.
So that's why I'm poor. So that's why I'm still working to this day. I'm not retired.
You're still paying off that Decagon 45.
Paying off all these records. I still have all of my records. I have not sold any of my collection. It's all in storage. I cannot partake in having it near me right now. I didn't bring any of my records with me when I moved to California. So it hurts because I miss an order. I miss my family. My daughter still lives in Houston. Miss my siblings, and then I miss all my Beatle stuff.
Yeah. So out of your collection, if there was like a fire and you could only save one thing, what would you take?
Don't say that.
I'm saying theoretically, if there was a fire would never happen.
I don't know.
And if there's any fires listening to this show, don't you dare go near Lonnie's collection.
I don't know. I have so much stuff, that all those albums mean so much to me, especially the ones that I bought in the 70s. That album that I told you about that I borrowed from my friend and never gave back, But I guess there's a couple, only one.
Okay, maybe a handful.
Well, the Butcher album, that would be one. And I didn't buy that originally back in the 70s. I didn't buy that until a few years ago, maybe about 12 years ago.
Is it second state, third state, first state?
Well, it's a mono first state.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me!
It was. Let me get this right, though. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not peeled, right? It's not peeled. It's original mono, and because if it was peeled, then that would be a second state, right?
First state is nothing had been pasted over.
Right,
so
right.
It was
Okay.
just the cover. Second state, it had been pasted over. Third state, that had been peeled off.
And the third state is what? Not peeled.
Third state is you peeled the trunk cover off, and then you can see the butcher.
Okay, so that's peeled. So I got a first state that I bought on eBay. I got a bonus at work. And I had that bonus was burning a hole in my pocket. And though I had kids in private school at the time, I had priorities.
You have priorities. You got to get more Beatle records.
I did more Beatle records. Got this bonus. I already paid the tuition, my daughter's tuitions at their private school. So I got a few $100 left. So I didn't pay that much for it. It was $400 or $500. And this was in 2008, maybe.
Oh, man.
So that was it was still fairly affordable. I think they've gone up and doubled since then.
Oh yes.
Back in the 70s, if you were lucky to find one, it was hard to find one, but if you were lucky to find one, they were like $120, and that was a lot of money for the 70s.
You're making me drool here, Lonnie.
Well, yeah, I said I paid $20 for that 45, but $20 in 1976, 77, that would be worth at least $100 today, if not more.
Oh my God!
With inflation, the way it's rapid. But yeah, so that would be one album that I think I would, because I've always wanted that album, and it took a few tries. I had bought a Butcher several months before that one, but it was bad. It was the peeled,
mm-hmm.
which is the third state peeled, and it was bad. It looked terrible. And I got it for under $100 because it was such in poor shape. But I relisted that and I got my money back plus a few extra dollars. And then I got this other one that is really beautiful shape. It's really nice.
Boy.
So it's in frame. I framed it with the album next to it. And that's in storage right now. I got a few things. I have my London Palladium poster. You know that the London Palladium where the Beatles are standing in that blue brick doorway? That has been like countlessly replicated over the years. Well, I found one in that flea market back in the 70s. It would have to be 72 maybe. I found one that was sold by an old lady. And I said, well, how much do you want for that poster? And she said, 25 cents. I said, okay. It's been wrapped up, but it's an original. It's an absolute. It has NIMS 1963 Enterprise stamp at the bottom.
Oh wow!
And it's beautiful. It's a little water stains on some of the edges, which gives it character to some degree.
Character.
And some years later, like maybe 10, 12 years ago, I had it professionally framed. And the frame was like, it cost me $200 to frame the poster. The poster cost 25 cents.
So really, it cost you $200 and 25
cents. But that's a prized possession because I paid what I paid for it. And when I bought it, and it's an original. It's not a copy at all. It's an original 63 NIMS Enterprise Beatle merchandise poster.
Kind of keeping on this poster thread. A couple months back, you had sent me a photo of this display you had at some event with all these Beatles promotional posters.
Yeah, I have. Albums is just probably my album collection is not 50% of my Beatles collection. It's probably more like 30%. Mm-hmm. I have hundreds of posters that I bought in the 70s and the 80s.
What kind of posters do you have?
They're just whatever you can think of. I have promotional posters. A lot of promotional posters that I have, Ethan, I didn't buy. Like in the 80s when the Beatles releasing their CDs, these promotional posters for the CDs mm-hmm. when they were released for the White Album CD. I have the in the late 70s, there was a rash of albums that came out in colored vinyl, mm-hmm. like the Sgt. Pepper marble vinyl with purple marble. Love
National Pride, that was Canada.
Yeah, that's right. I have Love Songs, Canadian gold vinyl.
I have one of those too. It's really lovely.
It's beautiful, but at the time you could go into record stores and they have the album promotional posters on the wall promoting the albums, and if you were the first one there to claim it, they'll let you put your name and phone number on the back. And several weeks later, the manager would call you, or someone from the record store would call you. And they say, "Hey, we're done with the poster. Come and pick it up." It was that easy. So
is that how you got most of your promotional posters?
Most of my promotion, even displays. I have a really cool display for the Red and Blue CD release. Mm-hmm. The CD, Beatles CDs, the Red and Blue albums.
Yeah.
It's a big display. It's a full display, like 5 feet tall. And they gave that to me after they finished with it. This was whenever that was released. That was in the 90s, I believe, that Red and Blue.
5 feet tall?
What? It's a nice display. Yeah, it's
Was it one of those like floor things that?
Yes, it was a floor display. You can they put all the they situated the CDs in it.
Gotcha.
And I have that. And I just have a ton of stuff. I have these really cool 36 by 24 Julian Lennon cardboard posters. There's like 4 different ones. These were at Chess King. Chess King was like a fashion store in the 80s.
Okay.
And he did some exclusive modeling for Chess King. So I have those posters, all of them that were in Chess King. I would go there every week and ask for those promotional posters until finally they got tired of me and they said, "We're done with them. You can have them."
You got to wear them down.
I was persistent, This was again in the late 70s. Julian Lennon was probably 85, 86, in the mid 80s. And that was before I had kids, Ethan. And I wasn't married at the time. And,
you weren't married, so you could go spend your time going to Chess King and harass the employees for Julian Lennon promotional posters.
I wasn't going to the mall to meet girls. I was going there to find Beatles stuff.
Don't we all? Well, yeah, actually, we all do. Well, pretty much everyone who listens to this show does.
Oh, I know. So that's the story of my life, hunting down Beatles, hunting down memorabilia. But I have hundreds now. I've sold probably about 40% of my posters, though, on eBay, over the past 10 years. And a few of them, I told myself I'm going to sell some of these posters. I'm not going to let them go for like pennies. Mm-hmm. So, I put a value on there what I thought it would be worth to part with. And in most cases, I got what I was asking. Mm-hmm. I put some bootlegs. I have like 400 or 500 bootleg albums.
400 or 500? Yes,
I have a total of close to 800 or 900 Beatle albums.
Oh man!
Total.
I have 200, and I feel insane.
Well, when you got like 16 copies of Meet the Beatles, I had to find the very first pressing of the U.S. Meet the Beatles. Mm-hmm. Well, if there's no ASCAP, no BMI, no produced by George Martin, mono, East Coast record factory. Then I have to have the West Coast version of it.
As you do.
The West Coast plant. Oh, it's crazy. But I sold a lot of my bootlegs in the last decade. Because I needed the money. And I had some really nice ones. I hated to part with one of them, was live in Vancouver. It was marble vinyl double album.
Oh, that's nice.
It was I took pictures of it before I sold it, and I recorded it I digitized it on my computer. But I got about $500 for it, so I still wish I would have kept that one.
I'm going to ask you a kind of big open-ended question here. What do the Beatles mean to you?
Well, they meant, first of all, the music. It made me happy. to listen to the music. And somewhere, because again, I wasn't collecting, I wasn't listening to 45s in the 60s, but apparently subconsciously I was listening to the Beatles music on the radio. And when I listened to it again in the 70s, it just like it unlocked memories. So the Beatles were somewhat psychologically, to me, there was therapy to some degree. It really was. It unlocked memories that I had forgot about as a child. And when I listened to like All My Loving, I just, oh my gosh, a little memory opened. I remember being downtown and my sister was working at a clothing store. And I remember the song was playing in the background. I mean, really, that little memory door would just open for me. So that made me happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just positive memories. For me, the Beatles are just happy music, fun times.
How do you think the Beatles have changed your life?
Well, you might have to ask other people that know me, because I feel that they've kept me sane. You know, they kept me sane when I'm down. You know, kind of like it's like that James Taylor song, when you're down and out, you need a friendly hand.
The Beatles are that friendly hand.
I'm serious. Going over the years, I've been through 2 divorces, Ethan, and 2 marriages, 2 divorces, and then just living life and, working. And anytime I feel down, I'll play a Beatles song and I forget about everything. Heck with everything, just I want to listen to that 2-minute and 30-second song. After that song is over with, I'm good.
That's deep.
Yeah, that's crazy too. Some people would say I'm obsessed.
You're not obsessed. You know, it makes you happy, and you listen to it.
Yeah.
Speaking of what you listen to, I'm going to hit you with some quick fire questions.
My goodness.
Now I always have to preface this by saying the questions are quick. The answers are almost always not. So,
well, we'll see. What's your question?
Lonnie Peña, what is your favorite Beatles song?
Oh, I Am the Walrus, hands down.
Oh, really?
Every time I've been listening to that song since I bought the 45, probably in 73. And every time I hear that song, I listen to it, I hear something different. To this day, it's like, wait a minute, I missed that. It's been on there for how long? I don't remember hearing that little section of music. It's just it's always a new song when I hear I Am the Walrus. And I love it.
I kind of feel the same.
I bought the 45 first. It was the swirl, the Capitol swirl.
Mm-hmm.
I bought that 45, and then later on, had to be like a year later, like in 74, I bought Magical Mystery Tour album. I found a used album on original Capitol label, and I listened to I'm the Walrus on the album, but it was different.
Yeah,
it was different, and I was like upset
because there was that extra little beat.
Yeah, just before the second verse, I believe, or after the chorus, there's a little extra measure.
Yeah.
And it's on the 45 US mono only. Yeah, it didn't appear again on an album until the Rarities that was released in 1980. Mm-hmm. It's a special mix on there, but it's not the original mono mix.
No.
But yeah, I mean, that really upset me that little extra measure was not included on the album. But I love that song. That is one that I'd have to. That's my, what do you call it? Desert Island disc.
That'd be your Desert Island disc. Now, there's always a flip side to the question. What's your least favorite Beatles song?
It'd have to be something like, I don't know. I remember when I got the White Album. I bought a used White Album probably in 1974, and it was a German import.
Really?
Used album. Yeah, the album the album sleeve cut was at the top, not on the side.
Mm-hmm.
At the top.
Did it have like the number on it?
No. By that time, they didn't have the numbers.
Okay.
But the one I bought was manufactured in the mid '70s, but it was a used copy. But the White Album just blew me away in itself, with all the different genres of music.
Yeah.
On that album, but one of the songs on there, I just hate it so much, and it wasn't Revolution, number 9. It was Wild Honey Pie.
Ah, yes, Wild Honey Pie.
I just didn't like that. I still don't like it to this day.
It's barely even a song.
Yeah, I don't know. They could have left off and could have added another, sour milk sea.
Yeah, sour milk sea.
But yeah, that's my least favorite.
They could have put on that or like Not Guilty.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, that's my least favorite. I don't care too much for Wild Honey Pie.
I've kind of got a story about Wild Honey Pie. So a friend of mine was working at a radio station, and he was kind of showing me how to use like the queuing system and putting songs in there. And he had to go leave the room and talk to his boss or, go to the bathroom or something. So I went into the queuing system, and I snuck Wild Honey Pie into the queue.
Yeah.
And so Wild Honey Pie played through its, 45-second entirety on the radio.
Right. What happened? Did you get in trouble?
I don't think so. By the time they realized what was happening, they're like, well, we can't stop it.
Just let it play. Let it play.
There's only like 10 more seconds left in the song.
Was it a college radio or what?
No, it was a community radio station.
A community? Oh, okay. Cool. Sweet.
So, kind of a bigger variation of that question. What's your favorite Beatle album?
Album? You know what that is. You know what that is, Ethan.
Might it be Meet the Beatles?
It might be, and it is. I love that album. That's what started it all for me. Ironically enough, 8 years after it was released, Meet the Beatles. Bang.
Now,
that was it.
In this, post-homogenized 1987 Beatles CD world, where all the mixes are just the British ones, do you prefer the British mixes of those songs or the American, reverb, Dave Dexterized ones?
No, I actually would prefer the Beatle British mixes, but in the order of the U.S. Meet the Beatles, which I made my playlist that way,
Well, there was a box set that came out maybe. Oh well, it was 7 years ago then. Wow.
Yep, so 2 years. I have the box set that they came out with. I have that. It's in storage, like every damn thing else I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. But before that, though, I would make cassettes,
I'm not talking about the Capitol albums, the one that came out about 2014.
Oh, what was that?
It was called like the U.S. albums, and it's kind of people were mad because they were using the 2009 remasters instead of the clunky duophonic, reverb added stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a little box set with the Beatles and the U.S. flag.
Yeah,
I have that. And but yeah, the U.S. original album is my favorite, Meet the Beatles. But but looking back, I would prefer the British mixes, but in the order of the U.S. mix or the U.S. Song listing.
Now, I have a feeling you know where I'm going to go with this next question.
Let me think. Worst?
Yeah.
The best?
What's your least favorite Beatle album?
Well, if you could, there's a couple of answers, and it's kind of a trick question or a trick answer.
Okay.
Well, first, I worked hard for my money back in the 70s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, it wasn't easy. You made a living, and then
cars don't paint themselves.
Right. And so I went out and I went to the record store probably around 74, and I bought an album that I had yet to be in my collection, a Beatles album. And I was just waiting, I don't know what I was just waiting for, but I bought it. It was a double album, US double album. It was on Apple label by that time. And I got home, I put the damn album on, and I was so disappointed. It was called The Beatles Story.
Ah, yes.
And I was like, what the heck is this crap? It's just, they're talking to fans, which is fine, but it's hardly much of an agenda of conversations.
Yeah.
And you get
it's just a hodgepodge.
You get 30 seconds of maybe a live background of Beatle playing. I think it was at the Hollywood Bow or somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was just so disappointed. I only
did you
played
buy
that
this
record.
one new?
I bought it brand new, sealed. I opened it, played it.
Not even at the flea market.
Not even at the flea market. It cost me $4.99.
That could have bought you like 2 Tarkus.
I'm serious. It was that was the only time I felt I waste my money on the Beatles. And again, it was hard-earned money. Yeah, but other than that, if you want to include like a traditional album, it would be Beatles for Sale.
Yeah, that seems to be a common answer.
Yeah, the Beatles for Sale for me, and the the U.S. was multiple different copies. You had the Beatles 6, yeah. Beatles 65, I could deal with those albums. They were pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But this Beatles for Sale, I never really got into it. I love the cover. It's one of my favorite covers. But it's not my favorite album, to say the least.
I mean, you are rightly entitled to that opinion. It's one of my favorites, though, so it always makes me really sad when I hear people say they don't like it.
No, I'm happy for you because there's some good music on there.
Oh yeah, well, then again, it is a Beatles album, and
yeah, it is, and it was one of the last times they actually covered another artist on that album. But I don't know, maybe because of the fact when I finally got that album, I had listened to I grew up with the U.S. versions of the Beatles. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get that album. In 1980, I bought that UK box set. It's a blue box set.
Yeah, the blue box.
I bought that brand new when it came out. Paid $120 for it. And
I think I paid a little bit more for that.
And I was happy with all the albums except for that one. I quite loved Revolver. That was awesome.
The British Revolver is... I've never heard anyone argue that the American Revolver is better than the British Revolver.
No, it's the Revolver was not my favorite album. It wasn't my least favorite, as I just told you, but it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't the worst album. It wasn't my best album. There was, they compare Revolver and Sgt. Pepper from the U.S. versions from back when I was listening to them. Sgt. Pepper was grand, no comparison to Revolver. But listening to the UK Revolver, that's something else.
Yeah.
That's something else.
'Cause
Total.
It takes the good John songs from yesterday and today.
Oh, they stripped them. They stripped them. And certainly to this day, I think Revolver could still hold its test in time.
Oh, yeah.
And as well as an example of Got to Get You Into My Life was the Revolver album. 10 years after it was released, the Got to Get You Into My Life made the top 10 in the U.S. If not, I don't think it was a number one single, but it was in the top 10 in 1976.
I think you're right there. And I've got one last question.
Uh-oh.
Why do you think the Beatles still matter?
Well, I think because they make people happy, because that's what it really is. If you're not happy, then I don't want to look at you twice. It's the music that makes people happy, and it's just good music. When it really comes down to it, I think Paul said this several times. They were just a really good little band, little rock and roll band.
Good little band.
A little band, little rock and roll band from Liverpool.
The little band that could.
That could and did, and it's people like us that keep the memory alive. When I'm gone, Ethan, take over.
Will do.
Thank you.
I'm already taking over now.
Thank you. You're on a good start. Very good start. I'm very impressed with what you know about the Beatles, what you know about music in general, and your enthusiasm about, all this. And of course, with the technology, anyone could do this, but not everyone does. So
yeah.
I appreciate what you do.
Well, thank you, Lonnie. And where can people find you these days?
Well, since I'm a fan on the run, it's really hard to catch me. So if they want to find me, they're going to have to vicariously go through Fans on the Run, message Ethan, and he knows how to contact me.
Don't you make music, Lonnie?
Well, I do. It's not available yet.
Okay.
So it's not available yet. I do have a what do you call that? I don't even know what it is.
SoundCloud?
The new technology. Yeah, SoundCloud. You can look up Holly Peña. HOLLE P like in Paul, ENA. Holly Peña. You will find us on YouTube and you will find us on SoundCloud. That's my buddy, my songwriting partner, Leon Holly, who's a distant cousin to Buddy Holly, literally.
Really?
Yeah, Leon Holly, Lubbock. And myself, Leon and I have been writing music since probably 1982.
Oh, wow.
And we have a lot of original 80s music. I have a few YouTube that we produced back in the 80s, songs that are up on YouTube. We produced a music video, and that's up on YouTube, called Love Is Out of Touch. Big production. And we got new music that we're currently working on because we've been in, the lockdown. So we hopefully we're going to release it probably later, if not this year, certainly early next year. A CD. I know no one has CDs, but we're going to release a CD, but also coincide with a streaming release on one of the services. Haven't decided which service we're going to use yet.
I think you could probably put them on all of them.
Yeah. I might give you a call, Ethan, with some expertise on this technology stuff.
Well, you know my name. Look up the number.
I'll look up your number.
Now me number what? Me number 2.
Hey, we can play music right here.
Exactly. I'll go grab my flute.
I'll grab my guitar. My guitar.
A little Jethro Tull.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been recording all morning, so I'll probably hang it up now, watch the rest of the baseball game.
And I think there's one more thing we should say
Okay.
before we say bye to y'all. I think we both want to give a big shout out, hello to our friend Ed Chen over at When They Was Fab.
Yes, absolutely. Hello, Ed. That last show was awesome that he produced with John Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And, of course, that's where Lonnie and I met.
That is right. We were on the set. It was 68?
68 or 69.
Yeah. And I remember, what's his name? I forget the guy's name. Walked into the studio. He was one of the monkeys.
Yeah.
Peter Tork. He kind of torqued me wrong, but, he won't go there.
Mm-hmm. That's another story for another time.
So, but yeah, it's a pleasure doing the podcast with Ed. Ed has so much information stored in his brain, and he is one that you need to listen to. And now John Stone is on with him, and John has just as much information about the Beatles as anyone else that I know. So it's going to be a great companionship.
So if you haven't already, go listen to When They Was Fab. And with that, Lonnie, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
And to everyone else out there, thank you for listening. You can go home.
Bye-bye. Fans on the run. Fans on the run.
Fans on the Run is produced by Ethan Alexanian. Additional voiceovers by Richard Phillip. This has been a Showtown production.